There's a common misconception that the science and art have irreconcilable differences. Here at the Sykes Museum of Science Art, we show through the ages that science and art can go hand in hand. Sometimes art depicts science, and sometimes art uses science to create captivating and memorable pieces. Our first stop on our science tour is ancient Egypt. This is the Dendera temple, but pay close attention here to the depiction of Osiris. You can see he stands in a typical pose used by Egyptian artists, but he stands in a boat surrounded by stars. Although ancient Egypt is a long way from the science we know today, this depiction calls to mind the very common practice of using the stars to navigate ships. In this way we can see the science shown as early astronomy and navigation. Now, if you follow me over here to the 15th century, we see the iconic Vitruvian Man by Leonardo da Vinci. This recognizable piece was da Vinci's way of putting pen and ink to Roman architect Vitruvius's claim, "For if a man be placed flat on his back with his hands and feet extended, and a pair of compasses centered at his navel, the fingers and toes of his two hands and feet will touch the circumference of the circle described therefrom. And just as the human body yields a circular outline, so too a square figure may be found from it." The connection to science here is unmistakable. Here, art meets science of anatomy. Now we're going to take a bit of a jump and head to the 17th century. Painted by Johannes Vermeer, the astronomer shows art and science hand in hand. The man seen here reaches for a celestial globe with a sense of wonder and exploration. So much time has passed since ancient Egyptians, but clearly the science of the stars is captivating still. Also by Vermeer, and also in the 17th century, this is The Geographer. There are similar themes and sensations as with Vermeer's The Astronomer, but here the science focuses on more earthly wonders. Vermeer carefully included several items a man would need in the science of geography, such as compasses, terrestrial globe, and the cross staff used in surveying. Now over to the Islamic region of the world. Rather than art depicting science, we see here that math and science work together to give the architect of this mosque, and many others like it, a bold and unerring geometric design. Islamic art frequently makes use of geometry in their design, and this beautiful dome of the mosque shows the architect's artistry and scientific brilliance as the geometric design continues in concentric circles. Over here you can see the Sykes Museum has acquired a beautiful historic site and of scientific architecture. At first glance, the sweeping lines of separate but integrated structure of the Jantar Mantar in Jaipur seem like a collection of monumental masonry. However, these precisely paced pieces are actually highly accurate instruments of astrological observation built in the early 18th century. This piece here is essentially a sundial accurate within 2 seconds. Talk about a beautiful merger between science and art. This piece by Jacques Louis David, titled Portrait of Antoine Laurent Lavoisier and His Wife, shows a very complex melding of our themes of science and art. The seated man, Lavoisier, works with scientific instruments like a barometer and gasometer, but his wife standing next to him, prominent in her starkly contrasting color, possesses her document case of drawings behind her. A viewer can take from this that the scientists are usually quiet, seated, methodical in their observation, while art and artists take the stage in an aesthetically pleasing, attention-grabbing way. The contrast of the two is lessened by the connection of the husband and wife, but there is still a sharp line dividing them. Breaking into the 19th century, we come to this dramatic piece that captures the energetic and tumultuous resistance of the sea from being conquered by man. These two brave men attempt to do this with a very scientific instrument, an octant. Even though the instrument isn't quite being used correctly, we understand the effort in navigation. The piece compels us to this assumption, as does the structure surrounding the men. There is little to define it, but we know that the sparse rigging is a ship even without looking for long. The 19th century continues to deliver a powerful combination of art and science in Auguste Rodin's The Thinker. The strong, artfully crafted physique adds a level of strength and determination to the thought the man is wrestling with. With his right elbow rested on his left knee, we can imagine that he is pondering something before him in that direction. The nudity accentuates the unhindered connection this man has with his cognitive ability to reason and answer all questions, a trait key to the scientist in all of us. In the 20th century, we see art take on a very different form. Here, in Nude Descending a Staircase, number 2, by Marcel Duchamp, the works may seem initially quite chaotic, but the explanatory title lends a wonder to the piece. Rather than depicting a nude woman on a staircase posed to take the next step down, we're able to see each step in stop motion all combined into one geometric conglomeration of parts that shows an intense amount of emotion without ever moving. Duchamp sees this progression of steps from every angle and uses these multiple perspectives to arrive at a single piece of art. Beyond the scientific, geometric, and mathematical prowess to imagine and accomplish this, a scientist can also appreciate the physical representation of gathering information from all sides and sources to reach a conclusion. In the last stop on our tour, we come to the 20th century, where art and science are closer than ever in creation. This piece, one of my favorites, is Peace Through Chemistry 1 by Roy Lichtenstein. A fine representation of pop art, this piece not only displays scientific instruments like the microscope and test tube, but he used quite a bit of science in his creation. Between silk screens, screen printing, stencils cut by technicians, 3 rectangles dissected into triangles, and Ben-Day dots, commonly seen in comic books at the time, this piece comes together as a perfect amalgamation of 2 seemingly opposing endeavors. Thank you for joining me on this guided tour of the Sykes Museum of Science and Art, and exploring how science and art can come together in a symbiotic blend of beauty and innovation.